Happy Monday. Change of plans. Lucy Croc's here, and I do a show at Grand at 11, but Croc couldn't make it. So today, I want to invite the 49ers YouTube OG, the Dr. Dre of 49ers YouTube, often imitated, never duplicated, Grant Cohn, man. What's up, Grant?
How you doing, Ryan? Good to see you.
Good to see you, man. Glad to have you here, brother. Thanks for coming.
It's nice to be here early in the morning.
Yeah.
I named the title of my stream on my channel, we're simulcasting, Trusted and Reputable, because that's what we are, man. I'm trusted, you're reputable, or you're trusted, I'm reputable. However you want to. We're like Starsky and Hutch over here, just alley-ooping to each other, trusted and reputable takes all day. And I'm excited to get into it today because we're going to talk about, the usual topics, Brock and offseason rankings, but we're also going to talk about the nature of covering this team because it's a topic right now. I mean, Kendrick and Drake got beef. I got beef, and we need to put all the cards on the table. And I'm ready to do it today.
Yes,
been holding my tongue for too long, Ryan.
You've been professional about this, man, and I like that about you. But I mean, sometimes you got to take the gloves off a little bit, to be honest. I wanted to real quick, if you haven't yet, hit the like button. That helps with the algorithm. Subscribe to both channels. I'm actually giving tickets away. I'm going to give tickets away to one of my members if I hit 10,000 subscribers, which I'm pretty close to before the season starts. So if you're not subscribed yet, subscribe. I'd appreciate it. And I'm going to give game tickets away to one of my members. So please do that if you would be so kind. All right, Grant. I got to ask you, man. Why is critiquing the team you cover important in your eyes?
To me, I respect any journalist who actually tries to critique the team they cover because it's not easy to do. You get a lot of pushback from fans and from the team. And if you're trying to critique the team and you're not only critiquing the team, but you're trying your best to sift through what's good and what's not so good, what's truth and what's BS, like that's journalism. And what's scary about it from a journalist perspective is you're going to be wrong. If you're actually trying to do that, you're going to be wrong. Maybe more than you're right. Who knows? I mean, it's tough. And when you're wrong about a player or a coach and you say maybe he did something not so good or he's not such a good player and you're proven wrong, people are going to remember it and let you hear about it. And you got to deal with that. So what a lot of people will do is avoid that altogether. Just praise the team. They're great. In fact, they're better than people even realize. And ESPN should be talking about this team even more. And if you only do that, I mean, it seems like you're not trying to tell the truth. You're just avoiding criticism at best. And at worst, you're really pandering to fans and to the organization that you're covering for personal gain. And you can gain a lot doing that. I think there's nothing honorable or reputable or respectable about that style. I'm not even going to call it journalism. That's just boosting. It's kind of how you might cover a college team if you went to the college and you were really like a fan of the team you were covering. Like, oh my God, I'm covering Stanford, let's say, and they're the 7th ranked team in the country and ESPN should really be paying attention. They got a great story out here. That's how you would cover a team like that. But the 49ers with 5 Super Bowl trophies and none in the last 30 years, but a lot of like missed opportunities. And all you talk about is every practice, everyone was doing good. Every player was good. Every pick was right. Every decision was smart. That to me is not journalism. So I just want to shout out to the people who at least try to do it.
Yeah, and to me, it's like it's basically propaganda at that point. I'm not into that kind of coverage of my teams, right? And that's why I try to be balanced. That's my goal.
Is the word.
Yeah, balanced and honest, right? Like, and I know you sacrifice a little bit of views and subscribers when you are that way because a lot of 49 fans don't want to hear criticism of their team. And if I wanted to build if my only goal was to just build this channel as big as possible, I would just be a Niners homer all day because that's the easiest path to success at doing this. But there are people like myself who enjoy honesty about their team because I feel like you're missing out on half of the dynamics of the 49ers if you're only talking about the good things, if you're only pushing that they're making no mistakes, if to me, it's like it's very narrow-minded way to view your team, and it's less enjoyable that way. Go ahead.
Like, let's talk about what's going on right now. Minicamp, OTAs. These are practices that are not open to the public. So fans are looking for a trusted and reputable report of what happened. And what's interesting about these exercises is every journalist has a different take. That's human nature. So fans just want the journalist to bring them there and to feel like whatever criticism or whatever praise carries weight, that it means something. And from a fan's perspective, if you're reading a guy's report and all they do is praise from practice, how does that praise have any weight, any meaning? Like, why does everything was good? But if there is some not so good, then it seems like both have weight, and you can at least track that writer's biases and wins and losses over time and see how good they are at describing these things. But at least they're trying. It seems like that's important. That's why, like, when you do these practice reports, you got to have some good, some not so good. And you want to have probably more good. You want to be generous. But if you don't balance it out at all, it seems like the good is meaningless.
Yeah, and people are going to watch the same thing and have different opinions, and that's not the problem. The problem is when you don't admit when you are wrong, and everybody's wrong. That's being human. It's being right. I've been wrong, and I admitted when I was wrong about 49ers takes. I don't expect to be right all the time. You've been wrong. You admit it constantly. But like some people won't even admit that they're wrong, and it's very arrogant, and it's not something I admire in a person, let alone somebody that covers the team that I'm interested in. So I think that's the biggest thing. Like it's okay to have different opinions, and it's okay to be wrong, but like to throw somebody under the bus when you are. 'Cause I'm not a journalist. I'm a content creator, right? You're a journalist. Other people that you work with are journalists, and there are other people that cover the team more positively, more, but the difference is they don't throw people under the bus and act like they're the smartest person in the room. They admit when they're wrong, they've been wrong, and that's what bothers me about the way certain people cover the 49ers, man. It's intolerable to me. That's why before I used to cover the 49ers for Bleach Report 09 to 2012 as a writer, and then I stopped, and I just went back to just being a fan. And that's why I'd watch you, because, I don't agree with anything everyone says. But when I watch you, I feel like it's your authentic opinion, and it's not just homerism, PR stuff for the 49ers, which is actually you have to be pretty damn brave to honestly cover the team the way you cover them and then walk into that building. And not many people are doing it. And I think you learn a lot of it from your dad. Your dad was great at that as well. Lowell did not give a fuck. Excuse me. No. I love that about him. So yeah, I mean, that's it. And then you can't really call yourself trusted and reputable if, one, you're only positive about the team you cover, and two, you never admit that you're wrong.
Right. And it's like that style of coverage is almost like the team isn't doing a good enough job of getting their message out there. Like 49ers.com isn't doing a good. Let me augment their coverage with extreme hyperbole. And that's why you've heard things over the last few years like Jimmy Garoppolo is better than Aaron Rodgers. You heard that all the time. Or recently, Brock Purdy is the next Joe Montana. Like, that's what that style of coverage leads to. And then when you get a practice report from saying something like Ricky Pearsall was great, trust me. About Dante Pettis at times. Trust me? How about be a writer, not a scout, and describe what you saw and let people make their own decisions based on your descriptive prowess, as opposed to just saying, it was great, everything's good, the Niners are smart, trust me.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can't even. I mean, it's hard to call yourself trusted and reputable when you told us Jimmy Garoppolo was the best quarterback than Aaron. He's better than Aaron. You told us Jimmy Garoppolo is better than Aaron Rodgers right before Aaron Rodgers won an MVP. You told us that Jimmy Garoppolo was great for 5 years, and he ended up not being that guy.
Real quick though, it would be one thing if you made that take and you had other takes saying this person isn't so good, or you were just trying to give your honest opinion and you were wrong once. I mean, I'm sure people can dig through my tweets and find a lot of stuff that I was wrong about. Fine, people are
Yeah,
wrong all the time. But if you are strategically only praising and overpraising the team you cover, then this is like the byproduct of that. And I don't see how you could be trusted and reputable at that point. It's like, oh, Ricky Pearsall had a great day. Every person has a great day on the 49ers at practice. Everyone. Even the guys who don't. Even the guys who don't make the team have great days. All of them. It's like
yeah,
Pleasantville. You know, remember that movie Pleasantville?
yeah, yeah.
He goes back in time. It's like the 50s and everything's all perfect and great. And they have a basketball team and they practice, and every single person makes every shot they ever take in practice.
Right.
You
Yeah,
can't miss in Pleasantville. That's
yeah,
the 49ers practices.
yeah. Yeah, again, I don't have problem with people having different opinions or takes than me, or debating me, right? It
That's what
just
sports
becomes a
talk's all about.
right, but admit when you're wrong as well, right? Like I admitted I was wrong about Brock. I was concerned about his arm strength. I admitted it like a million times,
Mhm.
probably too many times to be honest. But like this guy really literally said, I'm literally right about everything. The
Yeah.
amount of narcissism and mental, you have a lot of unhealthy issues if you believe you're right about everything. Like, who is literally right about everything? Literally, like nobody is
Yeah.
ever literally right about everything. The audacity to say that to your fan base.
Well, if your
And
working hypothesis is that the Niners are right about everything, and all you dare to do is chronicle history and praise them, then how could you be wrong?
even the Niners aren't right about everything, obviously, right? Like that's the funny thing.
Exactly. Right?
Yeah.
Like, that's the whole point of journalism. The whole idea is there's a team. They have their agenda, their story they're trying to push. And you're a journalist and you're like a human lie detector. You're supposed to be able to sift through what's real, what's BS, what's good, what's not so good. And the fans are relying on you to distinguish and to tell
Yeah.
them what's what. And if all you're doing there is taking notes and writing down quotes and saying, this guy said this guy said that, that's how it is. Like, you're just writing the gospel of the 49ers.
Yeah.
You're not a journalist. You're like writing the gospel. You're
You're
a
a recorder.
historian. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're a recorder.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's get some of these super chats, but yeah, it says spreadsheets been acting a fool. He's been going hard in the paint lately. Dave Barclay, my guys, what's up? What's up, Dave? Nice to see you. B&A, Chart Boy is not like us. Oh my goodness. You guys are hilarious. Keenan Gibbs says hitting that sub button is equivalent to buttering your biscuit. Get it done. Hope y'all are having a great morning. Keenan has took my butter your biscuits on your show and
I like it.
made
I
it a
feel like
thing.
this whole discussion came out of the Ricky Pearsall the thing. And it's like, I just think it's fascinating. He has a day in practice where he doesn't catch the ball. They throw him 4 balls, he doesn't catch the ball. Does that mean he's a bust? Of course not. Does that mean he had a bad day at practice? Not even. But to say he had a great day on a day like that is interesting. I think it reveals tactics. It's totally fair to say Ricky Pearsall looked great warming up. He's clearly fast and he looks like a good athlete. He wasn't on the same page with the quarterback. It didn't work out for him in 7-on-7s, but don't overreact. That's a perfectly fair take. But to just say, I don't care what happened, he was great, end of story. Anyone who says otherwise is not trusted and reputable is like, what?
Yeah.
Well, that's
Yeah.
interesting. I think I just learned a whole lot about your style.
The end part that you mentioned, that's the problem to me. It's when you have your opinion. Maybe you saw
Yeah,
greatness in
fine.
Ricky Pearsall on day
Yeah.
one, but it's don't listen to everyone else. They're not trusted and reputable, and I'm literally always right. That's the part. It's like, dude, get the hell over
You
yourself, man.
you know what one could do? If one could have been like, you know what? Pearsall got 4 targets and he didn't catch any of them. But I'll take you through each one and explain why it wasn't his fault. He was open, the pass was off target. He was open, the pass was off target. This is like you could do that. It's like, okay, you just brought me even further in practice. You just did a better job describing than everyone else, and now you've made a compelling argument. But to just summarize and say, trust me, that's I mean, I don't even get mad at it. To me, it's like that's why people watch us is because they're starved for more raw material, not just brief summaries.
Yeah. Yeah. And not just what they think you want to hear. Like, be real. Like, what did you see? And you could be
Yeah,
wrong about
grown-ups
it.
understand that there's good and not so good at these practices.
Right. Right.
It's not just all great.
It's not all great. And here's the other thing too. From an old head, I'm wearing my birth year 1979 t-shirt. I'm an old ass dude. I grew up watching the 49ers in the late 80s by the time I was really understanding what was going on, and throughout the 90s. I've seen the Niners win Super Bowls. This coming July, I'll be 45 years old. And it'll be since the 49ers won a Super Bowl. So like to me, the ultimate goal is win a Super Bowl. And that's why I'm like, I'm on that. Like, let's be hard on these dudes because I want them to win a Super Bowl. And what I cover, how I cover them doesn't make a damn difference. But until they show me that they are the best, and they haven't because they haven't won a Super Bowl. And so that means they're not all perfect. And if you're saying they're all perfect all the time, then where's the Lombardis to show me that?
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
I totally agree. I think we're just trying to hold this team to the highest standards. They've come close, and you could say that's great. Let's celebrate how close they've come. That's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is let's critique these missed opportunities and try to make sure they don't miss another one because they've missed two. You could argue more than two, and they're not going to get that many more.
Yeah, it's not easy to win a Super Bowl, and that's why when you get there, you got to take advantage. Rafael Flores, $99 says we will not tolerate any respect to. He's saying you're ours, daddy. When he said Daddy Cohn. Interesting. I didn't know you had kids out there, Grant. I didn't know you had kids.
I didn't know that either.
John Hawk said you should start a spreadsheet to track Mr. Spreadsheets. Nonsensical takes. And Josh Wyatt, how is the offseason treating you guys? Do you feel a Super Bowl hangover both in the team or the people covering it? Grant, what's up, Josh?
I don't think the Super Bowl hangover affects the people covering the team, but the team does feel kind of low ebb. I don't know. Doesn't have anything to rally around this year. Are they better than last year? Like their rallying cry this year is we're not worse than last year.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Here's my, this is a good question.
It's gonna be hard to get much better than the team that lost the Super Bowl last year. So let's just try to keep it together and hope we get a little luckier this time. That's the 2024 revenge tour.
Yeah.
Title.
I want to ask you, this is a great question, Josh. I want to get your take on something I've been thinking about. I probably should have made it a topic, but could we dive into this real quick? I want to ask you something in regards to Josh's question. I was just thinking about how many contracts are up, right? How many people are free agents after this coming season? Even a guy like Deebo Samuel, he's technically not out of contract after the season. He's basically out of contract out of this season. So you have a ton of dudes who are in a contract year. Brock Purdy, right? Even though he's technically could be in contract, it's a contract year for Brock Purdy. It's a contract year for Deebo Samuel. A ton of dudes all across the board. Almost every DB on the 49ers team right now is in a contract year. Do you think that part of it could actually help this team this coming season? That so many people are in a contract year.
Absolutely. It gives them a lot of motivation to play hard. At the same time, be interesting to see what happens if remember 2021, they started off slow. They're like 3-6. They went to Chicago and the season was on the brink. If they start off slow, players in contract years, do they start making business decisions? I don't know. But it seems like how tight-knit is this team right now is, I guess, the question. You got a lot of guys who have one foot out the door. It's a bitter way they lost. They're looking at their coach like, it wasn't your fault. Was it our fault? I'm just curious to see how tight this team is now. If they start off hot, it's not a problem. But if they lose week 1, what happens? It'll be interesting. Yeah.
I'm curious. Deebo's one guy that really intrigues me because they were close to trading him up until second round. I guess it was reported they made the decision not to trade Deebo Samuel 2 hours before round 2 in this draft, and he's aware of that. And so I was wondering, like, is that going to piss it off, make the locker room dynamics awkward, or is that going to motivate him because he knows he's basically in a contract season this year, and that's one of the things I'm going to be watching during the season. See how he reacts. His replacement was drafted, right? They drafted Ricky Pearsall, no doubt in my mind, to replace Deebo Samuel. What does that mean for Debo and his motivation.
Well, what about this too? Like, I feel like all these receivers have been sacrificing targets for years on a pursuit of a Super Bowl. Started with
Mhm.
Kittle. They gave him all this money, and all of a sudden, hey, buddy, you don't get 130 targets a year anymore. Now it's 90 because we got Debo and we have Ayuk and we run the ball more than anyone. Like, we don't throw the ball that much. So everyone has to sacrifice. Ayuk has to sacrifice. But it's going to be worth it because we're going to win a Super Bowl and you guys will be legends and we're going to pay you anyway. And now it's like, well, you might not win that Super Bowl because Kyle has his own issues under pressure, clearly. And some of these guys could be gone in a few years. Like, all of a sudden, it could be more like, I need my targets. I need the ball. I don't know. We haven't really seen that on this team yet, but there
Yeah.
could be some of that this year.
Yeah, we'll see, man. It is, we've been talking about the window for a while. It does seem like it's the end of this window. And if the Niners want a new window, they're going to have to do it with a lot of different players after the season. So this is a very interesting season, one we haven't seen in a long time. I can't remember one that we haven't seen like this.
But look, if Brock Purdy is legitimately elite and worth the contract they're going to give him, they'll be fine.
Well,
They'll be fine.
let's talk about that. Thanks for the question, Josh. Keenan says, me and all my homies hate homers. I don't hate barely anybody on this earth. I don't want to be a homer. I don't like the coverage I don't like homer coverage.
Yeah.
I don't like when I don't like when homers come at people that are just being honest. I don't like gatekeeping from homers, but I don't hate anyone, So let me ask you about this, Grant. CBS ranking came out. This is a while ago. I know it's been talked about, but I watched people on First Take talking about it this week, and Nick Wright and all those guys. And I don't agree with Nick Wright all the time. He's can be a little over the top sometimes. But the CBS Power Rankings have Patrick Mahomes first, Brock Purdy second, Josh Allen third, Joe Burrow fourth, CJ Stroud fifth, Lamar Jackson sixth, Jalen Hurts seventh, Dak Prescott eighth, Herbert ninth, and Jordan Love 10th. Nick Wright called this the worst quarterback ranking ever. And
Who made it?
Some dude from
Second?
CBS Sports. What do you say?
Second?
Yeah. Yeah.
Poor Brock.
What do you think on that?
They set him up for criticism. Now we have to. Okay, I don't want to just dump on Brock. We've all said the same things about Brock forever. Here's my issue trying to rank Brock. Why I think it's so hard. What do you do it based on? His record or his numbers? Either one. Then you bring up Jimmy Garoppolo, and it's like, well, the numbers suggested that Jimmy Garoppolo was a top 10 quarterback for a long time. It didn't say he was the best. Obviously, Brock's better than Jimmy, but Jimmy didn't play with McCaffrey, and he did play in this offense, in this scheme. And in this scheme, the QBR, quarterback rating, EPA, whatever number said Jimmy was at least top 10, maybe better than that, maybe top 7, top 6. And then he left the team, and he crashed and burned spectacularly. Didn't make it through the season. Got replaced by Aiden O'Connell and bounced. So how good was he? Was he ever even top 20, even though the number said he was top 10, top 7? I don't know. Maybe he wasn't even top 25 ever. So that brings you back to Brock. The numbers say he was the best last year. But how much inflation is going on here on the 49ers with these quarterback numbers? I mean, I don't know. I don't think he's a top 5 quarterback. Top 2? No.
Yeah, I have Brock somewhere between, honestly. And obviously it's this change. It's hard to do quarterback rankings, right? It's purely entertainment. A lot of times they're put out there just for engagement. I think putting Brock Purdy is obviously just putting him out there at number 2. I think that's for engagement, right? And I think if you also, there's another one putting him at 16. Like, so one guy has him at 2, one guy has him at 16. I honestly think it's probably somewhere in the middle. And we'll see what happens this year. Maybe he improves with a full healthy offseason, healthy arm. Maybe Brock Purdy gets better. But, there's also a lot of rookies, which we'll talk about later, that CJ Stroud came out of nowhere and became top 10. So we'll see. But I have Brock somewhere in 8 and 12 range. Like, it's very hard for me to pick. And that's why I prefer tiers versus rankings, because it's so week to week and it's very hard to do. But I don't think anyone that's being honest would put Brock Purdy at the number 2 quarterback in the NFL. I just don't think that's genuine. If you look at Jared Goff's statistics for the last 3 years, he's been the most consistent quarterback in the NFL statistically over the last 3 years. Jared Goff. I don't think anyone would Jared Goff up there because of that. I think a lot of times fans are very narrow-sighted in how they look at quarterbacks. They
Mhm,
don't they don't picture them on other teams, right? Like you're
mhm.
comparing a quarterback on a horrible team with a quarterback on a great team. Like that doesn't really determine whether they're a good quarterback or not. Sometimes they're just in better situations. They only look at statistics. Statistics are a team, like it comes from being a team. A part of it you can read into it, but also like if you're on an offense that gets guys open a lot, has a ton of weapons, 6 Pro Bowlers on your offense, that could skew things a little bit in your favor compared to a guy who's on a horrible team, right? So
And I
it's
got
very narrow.
the thing that's tough about Brock is, like, he plays on an offense with 6 All-Pros, and he's not one of them. Christian McCaffrey, Kyle Juszczyk, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Trent Williams, all have been an All-Pro at one time in their career. 6. That's a ton, and it won't be like that if he gets the contract that he's gonna get. So, there was a stretch last year where he had to play 3 games in a row without 2 of them, Deebo and Trent. So, he only had 4 All-Pros on his offense at that time. And you can throw away Kyle Juszczyk 'cause he's like a fake All-Pro, he's a fullback. So, he had 3 All-Pros on his offense, and he lost all 3 games, and they didn't score more than 19 points, I believe, in any of them. So, that's concerning. And then you go to the playoffs, and again, you have all 6 All-Pros with you, and he was decidedly mediocre in the playoffs. Not bad, but not great in any of those games, despite having 6 All-Pros around him on offense. I mean, like, even Jimmy didn't have 6 All-Pros around him on offense. And what's crazy is if you compare Brock's numbers from last season to Jimmy's numbers from 2019 when they both went to the Super Bowl and lost, pretty freaking similar. I think Brock had 4 more touchdowns, Jimmy had 2 more picks. Brock had, like, a lot more yards per attempt, but he also had Ayuk and McCaffrey. So,
Yeah,
he's better than Jimmy for sure. And if he
no
went to
doubt.
the Raiders, I don't think he'd get benched midseason like Jimmy did, but would he be in the MVP conversation? Would anyone think he's the second best quarterback in the league? I highly doubt it. And the Raiders aren't completely terrible. They have Devontae Adams. Jimmy failed with Devontae Adams.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
know what? I looked at somebody posted it. You know what's weird is Geno Smith's statistics and Brock Purdy's statistics.
Yeah.
If you go back the same amount of games, they're damn near identical. I think Brock Purdy has like 2 yards more per completion, but outside of that,
I think they were comparing Brock's 2023 season to Geno's 2022. I'm just saying.
okay.
Yeah.
I saw that. I didn't know what it was, but like
Yeah.
so and again, I think I want to clarify too because I'm labeled a Brock hater because I question if he was dink and dunk like Jimmy was. So everyone thinks no matter what I say about Brock is and I hate the guy. I don't hate the guy. There's nothing to hate about Brock Purdy. I admire his leadership, his mentality, his brain,
Yep.
his mindset, everything.
His
He's Brock
legs,
Purdy,
his
his
wheels.
legs,
Yeah.
all of it. And by all means, everything Brock Purdy has done in his first year and a half or whatever it's been
Legendary.
has been phenomenal. And I'm not saying
Yep.
that, but if we're actually like he's in a good situation. If you're being an
Mhm.
honest truth teller here, he's in a very good situation. Maybe the best situation in all of football. So I just think we got to be honest here. I have Brock somewhere 8 and 12 range, not number 2, not number 6, just over the top.
I mean, the thing with Jimmy is, like, he was a good fit for the 49ers. He had a lot of success. His numbers were good. He won a lot of games. The issue for him was that he wasn't good enough in the playoffs, and he made too much money. You could say, like, Brock is a perfect fit for the 49ers. He does everything they need a quarterback to do. Plus, he's a little bit more mobile than Jimmy ever was, which is a nice bonus. When it comes to arm talent, I mean, Jimmy had a quick release. Jimmy had a stronger arm. Brock, it's similar in terms of, but he's way cheaper. He's way younger. He seems to work harder. There's a lot of things to like. And he's a great fit. All the things are great. It doesn't really matter if he'd be good on the Raiders. It doesn't matter if Jimmy would be good on the Raiders. He was good on the Niners. But were you good enough? And are you worth the money? And with Brock, he doesn't get any criticism now because he's not getting any money. But if he does get that contract, it's going to be loud
Yeah.
because he had his opportunity. I mean, he literally didn't go further than Jimmy Garoppolo.
Mhm.
They scored 22 in the Super Bowl. What did Jimmy score? 21?
Yeah. I think this
Yeah.
is a I think this is a great transition to my next question, but I want to get some super chats before we do as well. Matt says hate is a strong word. I hate Lombardi. All right. Brock is a system
Explain it.
quarterback. When defense is expecting pass, Brock struggles. When defense expecting pass, Brock struggles. When they motion and disguise looks and teams load the box, he does good. This is a
Mhm.
perfect transition for what
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you. Somebody put out that the 49ers are pass first with Brock Purdy. I disagree. I would not say they're pass first at this point in time. Right now, doesn't mean they can't become that way, and doesn't mean they shouldn't necessarily. I question whether they're built to be that team from an offensive line standpoint. They do have the most expensive wide receiver room in the NFL at 55 million. I'm curious, man. Like you and I had a conversation. I posted it on Twitter that I was saying, hey, we need to pass more. We need to pass more. We need to pass more, which I find interesting now because people are saying we're pass first team. And at the time when I was telling people to pass more, they're like, no, don't change it up. We're a run first team. That's our identity. But now they're saying they're flipping the script on me. So my question is, I think we agree they're not a pass first team at this point. But should the 49ers become a fast first team? Are they built for that? Do you want to see them be pass first?
No, I don't think it's what suits Kyle or Brock, either one of them. I think the way Kyle and his dad both have success uh, offensively has been the same since the 90s. Run first, play action second, drop back third. They create big openings in the defense. It's what they're famous for, getting guys open, scheming guys open through play action. When it's time to just pure drop back, third and whatever, that is the least effective, the least creative, the least ingenuitive part of their playbook. And then the way they build their team is consistent with that. Like they have offensive linemen who are there for run blocking, and they can get overwhelmed in pass protection. Some of them are like 295 pounds. That the drop back pass game is really more of a quick passing game. Get the ball out of the quarterback's hands quickly and get some yards after the catch. It's not that sophisticated or dangerous. Like the teams that have the ability to do that, the Rams, similar offensive scheme and philosophy, but they just happen to have Matthew Stafford. So they actually invested in their offensive line, and they can drop back and play that game if they can. If it becomes a shootout where you got to throw 50 times and win, they can do that. The Niners haven't. They don't ever try. It's not how they're built to win or play.
Yeah.
So no.
I agree with
Yeah.
I agree with everything you said, but for me, it's multiple reasons, right? And this is what I was arguing last year. I think November we had this conversation in 2023. I want them to be prepared for the playoffs and the Super Bowl, and because in the playoffs and the Super Bowl, these teams are good. You're facing good defenses. They're going to take away your strength, which for the Niners has always been the run game, and you're going to have to go to the pass. And I want them to be prepared for that. It's also a passing league. The rules are catered for passing. Now, I agree with what you're saying that this team's not built for that, and it probably would have less success if they went that route. But there's also this pending contract lined up for Brock Purdy, and I would like to see what he can do in that situation. I would like to see not only that, I would like to see the 49ers become a pass first team. I've been saying that for forever because I think that's the modern NFL, but you need a quarterback to do that. And I want to see if Brock Purdy can be that guy if you take away the run first and all the defense, every defense you play is focused on stopping the run. If you take that away and you just spread everybody out and let Brock Purdy do his thing, I want to see that before we pay the guy $50 million a year. So for that reason, I would like to see it. Now, does it give them the best chance in the regular season? Probably not. Probably not, to be honest. But if they get to the playoffs, they got to be prepared to play that way. Look what happened, against the Lions, the Packers, and the Chiefs.
People just forget the Jimmy Garoppolo era. Came to the team. He was a backup. The team was 1-10. He started and won 5 games in a row before he got paid. People called him Jimmy Jesus. They acted like he was a franchise savior. Like there was no criticism of Jimmy. Then he got paid. Then he got hurt. Then he lost the Super Bowl. And over time, slowly, people were like, you know what? He's just not good enough. And that could be waiting for Brock if he gets the big extension and doesn't win the Super Bowl. That's the way it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Matt says Brock Purdy is punching above his weight class. 49ers for life gives Grant $2 just because he
Thanks,
likes him.
man.
He likes him. Joshua Wyatt says Jimmy was a good quarterback when he got here. He got hurt, lost mobility, wasn't a hard worker, and his mechanics fell apart. He wasn't the same guy by the end. And
Was he a good quarterback? I don't know.
what I
Maybe
love
he was.
about Brock is that he is a hard worker. Like that, Brock wants
He
to
is
be
a
good.
hard worker.
Yeah,
That's a big difference between the two. I think what made Brock so successful is that, yeah, he's in a quarterback friendly offense, but he mastered it very quickly in a way that Jimmy never seemed to care to. So that gave him a
yeah,
leg up. And then the fact that he was naturally more elusive and mobile also helps. Those are
hmm
two big things in his favor.
yeah.
And then he makes no money. That's a trifecta.
Yeah, and Amp, the Carolina Niner brings up another good point. Brock can't make 60 million on a run heavy team. See, that's the thing too, Grant. It's like the Niners have the most expensive wide receiver room in the NFL, and they might be paying Brock Purdy one of the biggest contracts in the history of the NFL soon. He might not be the top paid quarterback, but he's going to have a top 10 contract when he gets his, just because of the nature of his position. So if you're gonna have the most expensive wide receiver room, and maybe the plan is to move on from Debo Samuel, but this year they do have the most expensive receiver room in the NFL. Don't you need to use it?
That's what I would think. I mean, if you're gonna have this expensive of a quarterback and the most expensive wide receiver room, you'd think you'd be a team that would be top 5 in pass attempts, or at least top 10. And I
Yeah.
guarantee you the Niners never will be with Kyle Shanahan as head coach. They won't, unless they're 5-12 that year. So that's just how he runs his offense. And if they don't win a Super Bowl and they feel like they're not maximizing their quarterback and their investments down the line, that's when you start thinking that's when he could be in trouble. When you really pay a quarterback, but you don't use him like an elite quarterback. Maybe the owner says maybe there's another coach out there who could get more out of him. But the question is there another coach out there that can get more out of Brock Purdy? Is Brock Purdy truly like, because that's why Brandon Staley got fired, right? You had Justin Herbert, you weren't getting enough out of him. You got to go. Here comes Jim Harbaugh to correct your mistake. Does anyone, because Justin Herbert, everyone looks at Justin Herbert as like the next Stafford. Like, he's legit, he's elite, he has the tools, he just needs a coach to match it. People don't look at Brock Purdy that way. They, pat him on the head. They give him all kind of praise, but it's not like they're holding him back. It's like, yeah, he's really, really good and great fit for Kyle. Kyle can really get the most out of him. What coach is out there saying like, man, give me Brock Purdy. I'll show you guys how it's done. I don't know about that.
Yeah, and a lot of people are using the argument that, the 49ers drafted 2 wide receivers this year, and Ricky Pearsall with pick 31, which was a lot higher than people saw him going, and then they got Cowing. So they drafted 2 wide receivers on a team that already has Debo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Juwan Jennings, the highest paid receiver room in the NFL. The question is why? Like, so is a lot of people are saying that they are going to be pass first this coming year, and that's why they did that. To me, it feels more like they were hedging because they could have traded Debo and they plan on moving on from probably Debo after this year. And that's what it seems like to me. These seem like picks for the future. And maybe we'll get a little bit of Pearsall sprinkled in, but I don't think he's going to get more than 30 targets this year. I mean, maybe he does, but I guess what my question is, why did they draft the receivers? Are they going to become a pass first team?
I don't think so. I think they drafted a receiver because they understand that they're going to have to probably let Debo Samuel go to pay Brock. Like, they're going to have more guys on rookie deals when Brock is making all this money to keep things the way they are now. So they have a replacement in here to learn because you got to learn the offense. You can't just play until you learn the offense. It's very complicated offense. I don't think Kyle wants to change. I don't think Kyle think he needs to change. I don't think he's capable of change. I think he's locked in. Look, maybe I'm wrong, but when I'm there in this organization, the feel I get is they think they've got the winning formula. They think they've had it since 2019. And the fact that they haven't won the Super Bowl yet is just a fluke. That's, I think, how they think. And so what's important for them is to keep everything as much the same as possible so they can really prove that they should have won those Super Bowls back then. Because if you change and evolve, it almost acknowledges that you weren't good enough. And they don't acknowledge that. They were the best team against the Chiefs. It was just a holding penalty here or a Ray, a fluke and this and that. That's how they operate.
Yeah. All right, man. I want to get to my 17-second commercial. My sponsor, hell of a sponsor, by the way. And then we're going to talk about who the next CJ Stroud is and talk about the toughest division in the NFC. Give me 17 seconds, please. Hensley Real Estate and Mortgage has been serving all of California since 2009. I would love to help you and your family. Whether you're buying, selling, financing, or refinancing, please reach out. I'd love to help. Visit RyanGHensley.com for more information.
That was dope.
All right.
One more thing I want to say real quick about Brock.
Yeah.
So everyone assumes, I think probably Jed York included, that next year they're going to make him a very, very rich man, and they're not going to really play hardball with him. It's going to be like, remember when they gave Jimmy Garoppolo a contract? He had 5 starts, and they're like, here's a 6-year contract that makes you the highest paid player in the league. It was what, like, it was a $27 million. What was it? $27 million a year. So this will be probably, we're expecting, here's a 6-year contract, $300 million, $50 million a year or more. Who knows what the figures will be? Just because, like, do they have to do that? Like I just said, I don't think any other team in the league is saying he'd be better with us than he is with the Niners. Couldn't the Niners lowball him? Like, be like, I'm sorry, this is business. Here's a 3-year deal worth,
I mean,
let's say $90 million.
Yeah.
Take it or leave it.
To me,
who's going to pay you more than that? What team is going to say, let's give Brock $40 million a year? If the Niners couldn't win a Super Bowl with him, making nothing, you're going to win the Super Bowl with Brock, and you don't have Kyle Shanahan and Christian McCaffrey? Like, can't they lowball him? Is he really? Do they need to give him $50 million a year? Is that so wrong to say? It's business.
I think it's what is being said. Probably, like, the reality is, if Brock Purdy comes out here and balls out this year and gets better than he was last year, then maybe you can make that point. So that's a possibility. But I mean, it cripples your team if you pay a guy like that, and he's not top 5. If he's not an elite quarterback, and you pay him like that, you're crippled for years. And so they have to make sure that he is that guy.
Brock, we like you. We want to keep you. Here's $30 million a year. That's a lot of money. It's up there with Trent Williams and the highest paid. Not quite Nick Bosa, but it's a lot of money. We're not going to make you the highest paid player in the team. You're not our best player. You're not an elite quarterback. Kyle's helping you a lot, and you're helping Kyle. But no, we're not just going to give you $50 million a year just because that's the market rate. Like, if they do that and he's not truly an elite quarterback, and I have my questions, they're in trouble in a few years. They got to be really careful here, and I don't see why. I mean, they're playing hardball with Ayuk, right? I think, I don't know, man. If they're going to play hardball with Ayuk, why not play hardball with Purdy too? It's in the best interest of your organization.
I think, I mean, what you're saying isn't wrong, but I'm just wondering, that's why he has an agent. His agent might be like, I mean, they could franchise tag him, right? Or give him the, what is it, 4th year option? What are their options with him?
Franchise tag him. They can franchise tag him. I mean, they could say, hey, play out your contract. What are you going to do? You're under contract for 2025 also.
Yeah. And this is why I brought up earlier. It's a big year for a lot of players. And one of them, the biggest one probably, is Brock Purdy, because he could go out and earn that, justify that this year based on how he plays. Or could make the Niners pause, right? Like, hey, this guy hasn't gotten any better. Like, we don't know what's going to happen. That's what makes the season exciting. What I will say for Brock is that he seems like the kind of guy that will fight and grind to be better. And we'll see. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll see. All right, man. Oh, I got some super chats actually I need to get to. My bad, man. I'm not used to dealing with a million super chats. Only when I dual stream with Grant, man. And I'm in the major leagues. Where are we at? Stephen Pryor says, I have a feeling Debo or Jawan will be traded before camp. It'll probably have to be a player for player. Is there a trade for either of them that you guys would like to see? Specific player?
Before
I trade Debo for DeJuan Jones, who I wanted last year from the Browns.
An offensive lineman. Yeah, that'd be great. I like that. Yeah. Or a tight end. Isaiah Likely, the tight end for the Ravens, would be cool too.
Yeah.
I don't see him getting traded before camp. I think one of them could get traded at the trade deadline if they're not getting enough targets and they're disgruntled and they request a trade or something like that. But I think the Niners have made it pretty clear they want to keep their team as competitive as possible for this year.
Yeah, they're not. I don't think they trade either one.
I don't think they will.
Definitely not.
Maybe you're right, Steven. I don't know.
Maybe Juwan, I could see, maybe, right? Like,
it just reminds me. Remember when the Niners were flirting with the idea of trading Jimmy? Like, we're going to trade him. We're going to trade him. But we really like him. And we're only going to trade him for a lot. It's like, how can you say you really like him when you already traded up for Trey Lance? Like, you don't like Jimmy. But they never traded him. They just held on to him, and he finally left.
That's what they did with BA and Debo this season. They were open to trading both of those guys.
Yeah.
Like, that's an actual fact.
But
it's just they wanted so much more than they could have got. It's almost like, why even put that out there then? If you wanted a ridiculous amount for these guys, why put it out there? Because it just funks with your dynamics. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I'm sure they didn't. I'm sure it was the other teams to try to put a little pressure on the Niners. Like, look, everyone knows you're chopping these guys. You can't.
Well, I mean, assess yourself is what I'm saying. Like, assess your situation. Like, you understand that you value these guys more than anyone else and don't even entertain it because you're not going to get it. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah. Marcos, can you see the 49ers passing to Rock more? Brock throwing 30+ a game. Do you think both Elijah and Mason traded missed the 53-man, Isaac, RB2, Cody, RB3? That's a lot in there. We talked about him passing more. I think they're going to pass more. And I think Brock's going to be more aggressive, but I don't think they're going to change their identity and become a pass-first team.
I mean, in 2016, Kyle had his great year as an offensive coordinator with that record-setting offense in Atlanta. I think they ranked 26th in pass attempts that year. And they had Julio Jones. So it's just not how he calls games. It's not how they're built. It's not how he calls games. I'd be so shocked if they were top half of the league in pass attempts and winning. That would be a function of losing for him. That's how he calls games when he's losing.
Yeah, interesting. The second one, do you think Elijah would be cut and Mason traded, missed the 53? I have Elijah on my trade list. Him and Ambry Thomas are guys that I could see potentially being traded. I don't think Mason gets traded or cut. I
think they keep forward tailbacks. I think Elijah makes it. I think Mason makes it. I think Garendo makes it.
Yeah. I'm not saying I know Elijah's going to be traded or he will be, but if anyone gets traded, I could see it being Elijah or Ambry. Those are guys I have on my radar.
I can see Ambry getting traded because that's I think it's been documented. That's an Adam Peters guy, and the Niners coaching staff has benched him so many times. I could see him getting traded to Washington.
And Juwan Jennings I guess now you bring him. He brought him up and it kind of makes sense if they want to go with Pearsall. But I mean, Juwan was so clutch for them, and he's about to be the MVP of the Super Bowl. They probably don't do that.
He has an actual connection with Brock Purdy. I don't see why you would mess with that. You don't know. Brock Purdy's never thrown Pearsall a pass, even in practice.
Yeah, and he does things that beyond playing receiver, like his blocking, the way he sets the tone. He's a prick in the side of the defenses too.
Agree.
Which is great.
But I think what's underrated about Juwan, he didn't get enough credit for it, and I think it's unique for him on this team, is how tall he is, how big he is, and how big his catch radius is. Because like the number one pass on the Niners is that play action pass over the middle, 15 yards. They do it all the time. That's the most important route you got to run. That's the most important pass in the playbook. And he can really catch that ball with guys around him. He can jump up. He can make one-handed catches. Like, you kind of can't miss throwing that pass to Juwan Jennings. But that's, I think, it's the most important route. It's the most important pattern. He runs it to perfection. He's got to be here. In fact, I'd even think about re-signing. That's why I still don't understand the Pearsall pick. Like, you wanted to upgrade at slot receiver. He's a great slot receiver for you. What are you talking about? Juwan is what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Well, I don't think they've paid a third receiver since they've been here, right? They always let him go when it's time.
True. Well, they're doing their best to suppress his market value by giving him 19 catches a season.
Yeah, and that's what makes me wonder, like, why is Pearsall here? I think he's here for the future. Honestly, I think he'll get a little bit scattered
in a year.
Yeah, Juwan in a year, and I don't.
Debo in 2.
Debo, yeah. That's why they drafted those guys. I don't think it's because they're going to all of a sudden have Brock Purdy out there like Tom Brady, throwing.
Because again, this team doesn't have to get better. In fact, it can't get better. It's the best. It's a 2-time Super Bowl championship team, technically, if you know ball, but they didn't actually get the rings because fluky things happen in football. So all they can do is just keep on keeping on and doing what they've been doing because it works.
Yeah.
It worked. And if you don't believe the Niners, there are any number of journalists who will tell you that it's championship formula. It works.
Yep, 49ers fans for life says, how many all-pro players does Kylie need to not blow a 10-point lead in the Super Bowl? More?
I don't know, man.
A little more. Corey says, I'm not saying Purdy is bad, but I insist if you look at any quarterback between 10 and 15 in the league, they do as well or better. I think it's hard when they're not on your team, right? Like some of the quarterbacks that we don't think are that good would be pretty damn good on this team, I think.
The knock with Brock is like, okay, well, he's really having success, but he can't do the most difficult things that really elite quarterbacks can do. Like you can find clips of Jordan Love scrambling to his left, throwing against his body, making these dart throws 30 yards downfield. Like the really, really difficult stuff that quarterbacks have to do just a few times a season. Brock can't do that. But on the Niners, you don't have to. The throws are mostly short and intermediate. They're mostly to guys who are open and mostly to guys who are all pros and get you big yards after the catch. Like you still have to be good at your job, but compared to other teams, other quarterbacks, other systems, you're not asked to do a lot of highly difficult stuff. The most difficult things you're asked to do is avoid some sacks here and there because you're not going to have great pass protection. But a lot of times you'll have an all-pro running back going one way while you boot out the other way, and the whole defense is looking at him, and it's like there's a lot of easy open throws in this offense, as any Niners fan knows. So it's kind of hard to figure out exactly what the quarterback is responsible for when you look at his numbers at the end of the game.
You did bring up a good point about avoiding sacks, though. I think he's hiding this line a little bit because he is mobile. Well, Jimmy would have gotten at least 10, 15 more sacks.
He just tried to do it with his quick release, just get rid of the ball. But Brock can actually extend plays, which is nice.
Yeah.
It's my favorite thing about Brock. And I had no idea he could do that because you don't do that stuff really in practice. He started doing it in games with confidence and not even second guessing it. It's really, I think it's the most surprising thing about him. Maybe you shouldn't be surprised if you watch him in college. I didn't watch him that much in college. I just saw him in practice.
My favorite quarterback of all time is Steve Young. And what I love about him is mobility. I didn't want him to be a running quarterback, but a quarterback that could scramble and create. And Brock should probably run more. And what's funny is Brock said the two things he's working on are velocity because he wants to add more velocities to his arm, which is something I was concerned about. And people got mad at me for being concerned about it. It sounds like Brock's concerned about it. And he's working on it. Not concerned, but wants to improve it. And then the other thing he said was improve his mobility, which I've never been concerned about with Brock, but I find it interesting that he wants to improve his mobility. And if he does, he could be even dangerous. I would like to see Brock run more as long as he is protecting himself.
Yeah, like I don't need him to be like more mobile. Like I don't know how he can do that, but he can be. He can use his legs more often. He can be more decisive. He can leverage that part of his game more. Because really, I feel like the biggest difference between him and Mahomes in the Super Bowl was the scrambling. Mahomes ran for 9 times for 66 yards in the game, including his 22-yarder. And in some really key moments, he got first downs with his legs when Purdy did that earlier in the playoffs. But in this game, he had 12 yards rushing. I think that needs to be a bigger part of the Niners offense in his game, because if Mahomes is going to do that and be the best quarterback, like you can't outplay him without doing that. In my opinion, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't think you can.
If there's one real position he's elevating as a quarterback, it's the offensive line. He actually is when you think about it. So maybe that's the justification for paying him, because you don't have to pay on O-line. They just make Brock's run for his life back there.
I mean, if teams are going to play man-to-man coverage, if that's the way to stop Brock Purdy, then he has to run. He has to make him pay with his legs, because all those DBs are turning their back and chasing receivers.
Yeah.
So it's open.
Sorry, I went back. I almost skipped you, Michael. I apologize. It says, plain and simple, you can't justify paying Brock $40 million a year, say Debo and Ayuk, and stay run first. Add that run first doesn't equal Super Bowl wins. Did I read that correctly, or am I
add to that?
Add to that.
Run first doesn't equal Super Bowl wins. Well, what you're saying is that Kyle's taking this team as far as he can, and that his system is good in the regular season, but it ultimately won't lead to a Super Bowl victory now. And I don't know, maybe there's something to that. I don't know. Like it worked with his dad a very long time ago when they had a Hall of Fame running back and a Hall of Fame quarterback. It
Yeah.
worked, but it hasn't worked since.
You know, it's funny too is the 49ers are behind the trend a little bit with this because it feels like the wide receivers in the NFL are becoming running backs. Like what I mean by that is that you can find them pretty easily.
Yeah.
And
Dime a
now they
dozen.
have the highest paid wide receiver room in the NFL when that's kind of the trend is to be the opposite.
Are they not the highest paid running back room too when you add in use check to it? I mean, I bet they're
Yeah.
up there. I bet
Yeah,
they're up
which is
there.
which is weird because you can really like, you know, it
So
seems he's amazing. He's great, but like really you should be spending your money on a quarterback if you have an elite one and your offensive line, defensive line, and the corners, right? And the
the
rest,
positions that are harder to find.
yeah,
That's why you pay, because you can't find a ton of good ones in the draft, but you can find a ton of good wide receivers and running backs in the draft. So why are you paying for guys who aren't I mean, like, no disrespect to Debo and Ayuk, they're not Hall of Fame wide receivers. They're very good wide receivers, and you're paying them like they're freaking Hall of Famers. You can't live without them. Really? What? You just drafted another wide receiver. Like, there's going to be guys in round 3. Jacob Cowing might be really good. There are
yeah,
guys in rounds 2, 3, 4 every year that are really good.
yeah,
So, I don't know.
yeah. It feels like it's the trend, like how running backs don't get paid like they used to. I feel like wide receivers, even though it's not happening right now, but you're going to see more of it. I think if they continue to come out of draft as well as they have been, you're going to see just a bunch of wide receivers on rookie contracts. I think.
You gotta remember too, like, a big thing with the Niners offense is, can you memorize Kyle's playbook? How long does it take you to learn it? And have you learned it? So, if you're good and you know his playbook, that gives you a leg up. He's gonna wanna keep people around. He's gonna want to keep Colton McKivitz around. Like, is Colton McKivitz good? No, but he's not that much worse than some rookie who could come in and not know the playbook. So, at least Colton's cheap and knows the playbook and is, like, kind of good enough, kind of. That gives him a huge leg up, and he'll be around for a while until the Niners have a true replacement who also knows the playbook. So, you said it earlier with Pearsall, is he here to play? No, he's here to learn the playbook. And when he does, there may be a role for him at that point.
That's what it seems like to me. Brother Bob made it. What's up, Brother Bob? Made it to Corona. Morning all. Problem with homers is that the Niners are always right and always best team, even when Niners are wrong and lose Super Bowls. Yeah, we talked about that earlier today. Shout out to Brother Bob. Harold McAllister, $10 super chat says, I think they drafted wide receiver because they couldn't get open against man-to-man coverage. The games they lost were against good man defense, aka Brown Chiefs receivers. Do you believe that? I don't believe that. I think they're here to replace those guys, Harold. What do you think? I don't think they drafted Cowing and Persall because they're experts at getting open against man coverage. And in fact, that's kind of the knock on Persall so far. We'll see, but that's the knock. Do you agree, Grant? Or
Well, it's interesting. I think he can beat man coverage, but the issue is press man. That's the thing.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
if you're gonna give him a 9-yard cushion, he seems like he could be pretty tough because you can't really get your hands on him 10 yards downfield, and he is quick, and he is like a good route runner. Like, I'll give him all that. He is good at that stuff. So it might be kind of tough to handle him that way. But
yeah.
if you can press him, he doesn't seem to have the strength or the quickness or the explosiveness or the elusiveness. He didn't have it in college. It showed up on film. The NFL draft profile is the first thing they mentioned in his weaknesses. And to me, it showed up in a non-padded 7-on-7 practice at rookie minicamp, not even against Travarius Ward, in like a
Yeah.
real practice. So if you can press a guy and sort of take him out of your offense, then how good is he? Because the whole Niners passing game is built on timing. The ball comes out quickly. You got to be where you're supposed to be on time for the whole thing to work. And if you can get totally taken out in a second or two by a good press, I don't know, you can play. Or you can be like a gadget guy sometimes.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
Pearsall honestly is a better route runner than Debo Samuel. So if that's
Yes.
what you mean, Harold, you're probably right about that.
I saw
But
him
I
run a
just
real
thought,
nice double move against Renardo Green when Green played off. It was really nice. It was a stutter go. He sold it. Green kind of grabbed him. It should have been a penalty. That was the best thing Pearsall did all day. It was nice. You should press him if you're going to face him. Otherwise, he might be tough to. He might be kind of tough to handle.
correct. Marco says last year was our last chance. Is this true? Is this truly this year? Yeah, I mean it is a better chance last year, I think, in my opinion. But it's the last chance with this group. I mean, one thing the 49ers have done is built a good roster. So maybe they can do it again. You know, maybe when these guys are all gone, they'll have replacements for them. But it's definitely the last chance with this group, I would say, in general, the whole.
if you think of the Niners as like a race car, um, th one, they're a great race car. They have so many great pieces and parts in their engine and to optimize them, but one piece is getting kinda old, it's very important, and there's no replacement for it, and it's Trent Williams. Like, once that goes, the
Yeah,
whole car is screwed,
yeah.
and I when is that gonna happen? He's 36 this year. He already misses 3 or 4 games a season. When that goes up and he starts going to Eric Armstead territory and is 8 or 9, what happens? They're not prepared for that. They haven't planned for it. They act like it's not gonna happen. So, I don't know. Hopefully, it doesn't.
Yeah, it just felt like last year, but that's why it was so disappointing for me. It felt like last year was the best year. Let me ask you this, man. Last year, CJ Stroud emerged as the best quarterback in that class, rookie class. I actually predicted that, so I'm gonna toot my horn on that one. Year before that was Brock Purdy. Did not see that coming. To come out of emerge as a top 10 guy.
Mhm.
Who's the next guy this year, in your opinion? That's the next has the next CJ Stroud type story. Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, or Drake May, or is it somebody else? Which rookie quarterback's going to have a CJ Stroud type year, in your opinion?
Okay, I like this question. Whew, I think they're all gonna be great, and none of them are gonna have a bad season. They're all gonna be great. Okay, let me
Yeah.
try. Not Drake May. There's something about quarterbacks drafted 3rd. I feel like it's the kiss of death. Name
Yeah.
one good quarterback who was drafted 3rd.
Trey Lance, bro. No, I'm kidding.
It just feels like a reach spot. It's like he wasn't good enough to get taken 1st or 2nd, but a team needs a quarterback, so we're gonna take you 3rd. Like, Blake Bortles was 3rd. I don't know. I'm not gonna say it just felt like you missed out, and you're so close. You feel like you're not gonna be drafting this high again for a while, so you're just gonna take the best guy available when you shouldn't. So not
Mhm.
him. And then Caleb Williams, I I don't I don't have that strong of an opinion, but there's something weird about him, man. He seems like he ad libs every play. It seems like he can't take any criticism. And he's on the Bears, which they've never had a good quarterback. Those quarterbacks never work out. There's something about that organization. So I kind of feel like Jaden Daniels. He's got a nice little team over there. Uh, Not that Washington ever does anything good with quarterbacks, but I'm gonna go with Jaden Daniels. I wanted to say JJ McCarthy because he's got Justin Jefferson, but I've seen JJ McCarthy play, and I just don't think it's gonna go that well at first. I can't, in good conscience, say JJ McCarthy.
Do you think he's actually going to start over Darnold?
Yes, because starting Darnold is just losing. I'm sorry.
They paid him a
We've
lot of
seen enough
money.
of Sam Darnold. I can't imagine him winning, even with Justin Jefferson. There's something about Sam.
He's something about Sam. That should be a movie or something, or a book. Something
Something
about
about
Sam.
Sam. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I actually tweeted out that I like Jaden Daniels, and it's similar over there in Washington. There's kind of a change of guard over there, similar to how the Texans were last year with D'Amico going there.
Yeah,
Similar things going on with Adam
sure.
Peters going to Washington, and I actually really would like Jaden Daniels. I think he has the full piece, the
Mhm.
the whole package. Thank you. That's the word I'm looking for. Caleb Williams concerns me in the Bears with his personality matched with the drama that always seems to happen in Chicago under that regime over there. I'm a little concerned that that's not going to be a good if Caleb Williams is and he looks really talented. If he plays well and dominates, everything is going to be fine. But it seems like the kind of quarterback and regime that if things go bad, it could get really ugly over
I
there.
agree. I
Yeah.
agree. He's not gonna play
And
well and dominate right away.
and if he doesn't, it could get ugly,
Yeah,
with his personality, I think.
yeah.
And Jane Daniels to me just seems like, I mean, he can make every throw on the field, very accurate ball placement, smart, athletic, great mindset.
Doesn't seem to
I mean,
be a diva like Caleb Williams. I'm sorry, but that isn't that kind of what we're saying about Caleb? Like he comes across as like
yeah,
a diva in a way I haven't seen a college quarterback in a long time. Like
yeah,
what?
yeah,
He acts like he's Aaron Rodgers right now.
yeah.
Like
Which is,
I'm Caleb Williams. I've won multiple MVPs. Like no,
yeah.
you,
You know his
you went to
favorite.
USC. You're pretty good.
You know his favorite quarterback is
Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and he
yeah,
acts like him.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so we agree. Jaden Daniels. We'll see if we're right. I know Caleb Williams could be good. So
You know who won't?
What'd you say?
I'm sorry, I'm pretty confident about this, but you know who won't?
Who?
Bo Nix.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not big into Sean Payton. Three coaches I think are kind of similar. Make this argument right now. Sean Payton, Bill Belichick, Kyle Shanahan. Coaches who are seen as geniuses on their side of the ball. But really, how dominant are they without a Hall of Fame quarterback?
Sean Payton gives me the heebie-jeebies, man. There's something about him. It started with his shoe game. It started with his shoe game when he was on TV, like covering it in that 1 year. His shoe game was pretty bad. He had like dad shoes on national television with a suit. So at that moment, I decided I'm not on Sean Payton's team.
You're out.
Yeah, I'm out on
Sean.
that. Yeah. All right,
Yeah.
man. Final question for you, sir. I was thinking about this. It's kind of tough, man, particularly against the West and the North. You can make an argument for even the East. Don't think you can for the South, but what's the toughest division in the NFC right now?
Let's go through them.
Yeah.
Let's save the NFC West for the end. NFC East, Cowboys are not tough. Eagles are tougher than last year. Commanders are tougher than last year. And who am I missing?
Giants.
The Giants are not tough. So not them. The North. The Vikings, the Bears, 2 rookie quarterbacks, the Packers, the Lions. That's an interesting division. That's a division on the way up. That's a contender. The South, with the Buccaneers,
Falcons,
the Falcons, the Panthers,
Saints,
and the Saints. No.
Yeah.
So it's the North or the West.
Yeah.
Maybe the West. The Niners and the Rams are right there. And the Seahawks, no one really takes them seriously, but they've won 9 games back-to-back seasons with a pretty bad coaching staff. Like maybe they can maybe Mike McDonald's worth 1 win. Maybe he's worth 2 wins just because he's not Pete Carroll. And then you got the Cardinals who are rapidly improving. So yeah, it's got to be the NFC West.
Yeah, I'm mixed. I'm confused on that one, honestly. Like to me, Seattle, I don't know what the hell they're going to be. They could be better.
They take a step back.
They could, right? Who knows what this? McDonald's never been a head coach. He was a good defensive coordinator. How much of that was John Harbaugh helping him? Like
that's a great point.
How's this guy going to do? He could be worse than Pete Carroll, believe it or not. It's possible. I think it's likely they're better, but I think it's a possibility because he's just never done it before. So we'll see. And then they got the offensive coordinator, the former head coach of Washington Huskies. He's never been offensive coordinator in the NFL, to my knowledge. So I don't know. Seahawks are the wild card.
My thought is like, how could it be worse than what it was? Like they were so vanilla in terms of scheme on offense and defense the last few years. Seattle, like on defense, they did nothing exotic, and they couldn't even stop the run at the end. And then on offense, it was like all you do is play action bootleg. Everything is so predictable in that offense. I don't know if they'll be better, but it's an interesting team. I feel like they're the wild card because you see that the Rams and the Cardinals definitely got better. The Seahawks are kind of stuck in mediocrity purgatory. And the main change they made was a coach.
Which is probably the biggest change they needed because their roster is not bad. Like they have good talent, especially on the defensive side.
Their secondary is loaded. Their wide receivers they have the second highest paid wide receiver room.
They have good receivers.
He's good.
Yeah. And honestly, Geno's showed he can be pretty good at times. So it is interesting. I would, if I had to bet money, I would say they're better than last year, but they could also be worse. So they're kind of the wild card to me. Like I don't really know. But then it
still feels like this is the Niners and Rams division. Like say like maybe the Seahawks take a step, maybe the Cardinals take a leap, but it's going to come down to probably the Niners with 12 or 13 wins and the Rams with 12 or 13 wins, I would think, unless there's some injuries. That's probably what's going to come down to.
But guess what? Guess who beat? Not guess, but talking to you like one of my children. Guess what though, Grant?
Tell me. I want to
know. Who beat the Rams last year in the playoffs?
The Lions.
And they got better.
They did.
So that's my argument for NFC North. The Packers were very close with the 49ers. The Lions were very close with the 49ers. And then just like Seahawks are a wild card, the Chicago Bears could be a wild card here. Like
Mhm.
if they figure it out, if Caleb Williams is who everyone thinks he is, they could be pretty decent too. So it's very hard for me to pick between the two. I'm not sure, you know, from being a full stand homer, I'd say 49ers, but you think it's the NFC West?
Do think it's the NFC West. So what's interesting about the Bears is they got the Seahawks fired offensive coordinator Shane Waldron. They still have Matt Eberflus as their head coach. He's in his 3rd year. He's like in a he's in a prove it year. So they have to win this year or else that guy's going to get fired. Who they got? DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, and Keenan Allen. It's not bad. They also have Dante Pettis. That's crazy. They got a decent offensive line. They got Darnell Wright. They don't have a great tight end, but not that many people do. They have DeAndre Swift. He's okay. Montez Sweat. There's a lot of talent on that team. Like, they actually should be expected to make the playoffs, right? Will they win 7 games last year? No, I don't know about that. Will they win?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
I can get that.
I was actually reading a comment that look at that last super chat. Tell me if you want to.
Yeah, they won 7 games last year. How did I know that?
Yeah,
they won 7 games last year with a terrible team. Now they added the number 1 pick quarterbacks, Montez. They added Montez Sweat before, but yeah, that team's interesting. They could win 9 games, 10 games.
We'll see, man. I think it could be the NFC North, could be the NFC West. I'm hopeful for me. I still think the 49ers have. It's actually tough to say at this point who has the best roster, but you want to say Niners, but when you look at the Lions, I mean, they got a hell of a roster. They picked up DJ Reader on defense. They got a hell of the best offensive line. I don't know, man. It's tough. This is a tough question. That's why I wanted to ask you.
They got a corner of the top 20 pick, Terry Arnold.
Yeah.
Team's really good. And like the margin that they lost to the Niners last year in the NFC Championship game was pretty thin. I mean, they had to have what's his face? That one wide receiver drop a pass on 4th down when he was open. They had to have one of their DBs tip the ball to Brandon Ayuk off his face. Like a lot had to happen. I'm not trying to make excuses like Jed makes excuses for the Niners. I just feel like that was a close game.
Yeah.
That was a close game.
We got a super chat. I don't even know if you want me to address it. It's kind of I don't like it. Do you want me to read it? Do you want me to pull it up?
Sure.
It says it's important to be unbiased, and you and your pops are. Everything comes from a negative point of view, and you disrespect players and coaches hidden as jokes.
I feel you. Well, thanks for the super chat. I try my best to be balanced and give as much praise as I do critiques. And if you feel like I'm unbalanced, that's what the comments are for. So thank you.
Yeah, man. I just like the honesty, brother, and I like you as a person, man. You've been nothing but super cool and helpful to me as a friend. Just really appreciate you, man, for everything you've done for me. I enjoy Grant more than any. Before I started doing this, I watched Grant because he's to me hilarious, adds entertainment value, and will give me his uncut opinion. And whether I agree with it or not, I appreciate his honesty. So that's why I've always liked you, man. And
thanks,
thank
man,
you for coming on. Yeah,
I'm just on the quest for 6 along with everyone else. I'm trying to do a little pro bono quality control, and I am very proud of everything the Niners have accomplished under Kyle Shanahan. And I take a little bit of credit, but not that much. I'm just trying to help him get across the finish line. That's all I'm doing. Maybe it comes across as negativity sometimes. I just really care. I'm passionate.
Yeah, I can find myself being negative because I care. I care. Honestly, as a fan, I care. I get mad when they lose 3 Super Bowls in a row and my kids have yet to see it. So I get negative because of that. That being there is not good enough for me. I want to actually win the thing. So I'll be negative, but honestly, it's right. I acknowledge it's honesty. I acknowledge the 49ers are really good. I acknowledge the things that Kyle Shanahan does really good. I acknowledge how good Brock Purdy is a lot of things, but I also talk about the things where they're not great. And I think
And like we're not you're a fan. I'm not rooting for the Niners to win, but I still think that they should I want them to win, even though I'm not rooting for them. They should symbolize excellence the way they did in the 80s and the 90s. They should be a team that's more than just in the mix. They should be a team that's championship. And I think they're so close. I think they could do it.
You
Just
know,
trying to help.
just trying to help
Because
you
I
out.
have the answers. That's the thing. I have the answers.
Mike McCain says haters gonna hate, man. That's what haters do. I don't think anyone here is a hater, man. All right, Grant, man, fantastic show. Thanks for coming on my platform today. I appreciate it, man. I mean,
My
means
pleasure,
a
man.
lot.
Thanks for
Thank you
having
for
me.
your support. Yeah, dude. Great show. You guys, I'll be back Wednesday on my channel with someone. That's pretty clear. When's your next show, Grant?
It'll be probably this afternoon with Larry, and then tomorrow with my pops. He's back.
All right. Gotta watch that one. Appreciate you guys. Have a great day. Thank you very much. Oh, make sure you guys are liked and subscribed if you want to win those tickets. And if you want to just support me, I'm almost at 10K. I appreciate it. Thank you guys. Thank you so much for watching the Ryan G. Hensley Show. Your support is greatly appreciated. Please visit RyanGHensley.com to learn more about me and all of my businesses. Whether it's real estate, credit repair, solar, whatever it is, you can find out more about me on that website. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on your notifications.